Coming up, would you leave your own country if the far right took power? Like many Americans, as a Brit, I never thought I'd have to even consider that question until recently. The British polls put Nigel Farage and his populist right-wing Reform UK party in the lead. And when I look at what's happening under Donald Trump and MAGA over there in America, what I've realised is, if Trump's sycophant Nigel Farage ever forms a government here in Britain, my wife and I will have to leave. The same applies to the Reform UK Tribute Act, the Conservative Party under either current leader Kemi Badenough or the even badder Honest Bob Jenrick, her main leadership rival. Thanks to the USA, the whole world has seen what happens when a populist, corrupt and quite frankly ridiculous grifter seizes power. And I'm not hanging around to watch them do it here. Stay tuned. You know, there was a time not so very long ago at all when saying Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister sounded like something you'd only hear from a gobshite in one of those grotty little pubs with English flags draped outside. But now, serious people are saying it. The polls suggest it may happen. Nigel Farage's Reform UK Party councillors are popping up across the country, though the results have been predictably catastrophic. Councils that can't pass budgets and sackings left, right and centre as a result of Reform UK's version of Elon Musk's Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. And just like its American counterpart, they've discovered that all that alleged wastage doesn't actually exist, and there are no budgets or personnel in those councils that are dedicated solely to DEI. Then there's rows about climate policy and councillors resigning faster than Farage can light a cigarette. Byline Times report that at least 15 Reform councillors have been suspended, expelled or have quit, with at least 4 facing criminal investigations. Others have been caught sharing Hitler memes, spouting racist conspiracy theories or calling for volleys of gunfire to be shot at asylum seekers in the Channel. One Reform UK council in Nottinghamshire even banned local news journalists from press events and from receiving official local government press releases because of an unfavourable article about the wrongdoings of the council. Meanwhile, Farage himself swans about on the self-identifying entertainment channel GB News, selling the idea that Britain's problems can be solved by deporting 500,000 brown and black people and shouting woke at everything else that moves. But before I talk further about my own personal escape plan, please take a moment to like this video, check that you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, particularly if you're a member of this channel with the perk of early access to my videos. Farage talks about migrants the way Trump does, as vermin, as invaders, as people who don't share British values, by which he seems to imply brown and Muslim, though as yet he's still too nervous to say that quiet part out loud. He's praised Putin for his strong leadership and stated that he's the world leader that he most admires, while calling Trump the greatest Western leader of our time. And just like with Trump's deluded supporters, a minority of the British electorate buy this populist nonsense. Because just like Trump, Farage is the consummate salesman of division, scapegoating, resentment and victimhood. The Tories hollowed out the country with a decade of austerity, and Starmer's centrist Labour government seems terrified of doing or saying anything that might upset the right-wing press. And into that vacuum steps ex-bond trader, privately educated city boy Farage, pint in hand, doing his Man of the People act, proposing simplistic solutions to complex problems, attacking either migrants, the woke elite of his imagination, or the media. He represents a Trumpian, authoritarian and unpleasant future for Britain. And that's why, after the Farage Brexit, my wife and I decided to make sure we had an exit strategy, which was this. My deceased father-in-law was originally Polish, so in Polish law, my wife is a Polish citizen, but that had to be proven. And as my father-in-law's town of birth is now in Belarus after World War II border changes, and as we haven't been able to find his Polish passport, that wasn't easy. After months of lawyers, Polish courts, an embassy appointment and over £1,000 in fees, my wife now has her shiny new Polish passport, giving her the post-Brexit right to live and work in any EU country. Depending on which EU country she was living in, to join her in our marital bliss, I would then have to apply for a spousal visa, giving me limited rights of residency depending on the country. So I also did something else. I got serious about learning French, and after 3 years studying at Exeter University and Alliance Française, I've reached a level of fluency which would allow me to apply for French citizenship once we've lived there together for a couple of years. So, if reform ever actually sees power, on y va. We're ready to pack up and go. Sounds like surrender perhaps, but since my teenage years in the anti-Nazi League, I've spent my whole life opposed to the far right and the nasty people like Reform UK. And if that's what my country votes for, then I give up. Because, make no mistake, if Farage gets into power, he'll import the full Trump playbook. He'll destroy trust in the courts, intimidate the media, fill the government with sycophants and scream traitor at anyone who dares to question him. He'll weaponise patriotism to divide the country, and the first people to pay will be the vulnerable, the poor and the minorities without a voice. All you need to do is look at Trump's America to see what Britain will look like under Farage. Book bans, political trials, mass deportations, climate denial turned into policy, women's rights rolled back half a century or more, Christian nationalism that says it's the rich who are closer to God, and an attack on healthcare free at the point of delivery. That's what happens when populist protest parties get into government. We're hearing Reform councillors supporting Putin, working against human rights and claiming climate change is a hoax. And you realise we're not dealing with a patriotic movement that loves Britain at all. We're dealing with people who hate what Britain was before Brexit. Tolerant, fair, outward-looking, European. Now, of course, people will say, oh, come on, you won't really leave. After all, Farage himself promised to quit Britain if Brexit was a failure, yet he's still here. But I've seen other decent people quietly asking themselves, can I raise my kids in a Farage Britain? Do I trust these people with power? Can I find an escape route? I've got friends who've applied for Irish passports. I've got other friends who've joined ancestry websites to find some forgotten entitlement to citizenship abroad. Of my 2 closest friends, one has an exit route to Nepal through his wife, and the other is making concrete plans to move to Thailand should the unthinkable happen and Farage gains power. I'll be one of many that would be waving goodbye to the Britain we knew. Patriotism shouldn't mean submission. If reform take power, we'll see an exodus of brains, talent and decency. And maybe that's the saddest thing of all, the idea that people like me who believe in what Britain could be might have to leave because the grifters and the charlatans won. So yes, I'm deadly serious. If Farage gets the keys to number 10, we're gone. We'd head across the channel with my wife's shiny EU passport and a spousal visa, start a new life, and eventually I'd apply for French citizenship. And if that sounds dramatic, remember this. Every authoritarian regime in history began with people saying it could never happen here. Well, it could. And it might. Just look at the USA. National Guards on the streets, mass roundups, deportation and imprisonment of people who just looked like they might be immigrants, sanctions against the media, persecution of political opponents. I wouldn't want to live in a country like that. And for anyone watching this and thinking, are you bonkers, Rob? France, they have the far-right threat too, in the form of Rassemblement National. So that could be out of the frying pan and into the fire. Well, relax. The important thing is, French citizenship would give me back my EU citizenship, and with it, an escape route to 26 other countries should it come to it. 26 alternative life rafts. I quite fancy Cyprus or Spain or Portugal or Greece, any of those, in preference to a Britain under Farage. Now, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. And what are your thoughts? Have you made plans for a potential escape from a Reform UK Britain or from Trump's America? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, share and check that you're subscribed. It really helps push back against the algorithms of populist idiocy. And if you want to support this channel directly, consider joining as a member. It helps cover my costs in producing this channel, and who knows, may one day help fund that ferry ticket to Brittany, France.